Last week, I had the pleasure of inviting my mother as my guest. I didn't tell anybody it was my mother until the very end. And we talked about living life. She talked to us about her life growing up as a child and the changes that the world has gone through since she was born to present day Nigeria and the rest of the world. I decided to extend this conversation a little further by talking to somebody who is in my age bracket. Her name is Yewande Adewusi. And we've decided that today we're going to talk about the changing seasons of life. What are the things that happened when we were younger versus now that we're much older? What are the lessons that we can learn? And how can we make a better future for the world ahead of us? So I'm going to invite my guest, Yewande, to talk to me about her version of living life. Yewande, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You and me.
Yewande is the Group Executive Director, Commercial at Tangerine Africa, which is under the insurance, pensions, and health sector. She has the revenue responsibility for the group, charged with growing the commercial opportunities and leading the development and implementation of Tangerine Africa's customer strategy to drive customer growth. Yewande is somebody that I've known for a very, very long time, and she's worn many, many hats across the years. She's also a mother of 2 lovely boys and one of the people who seems to be able to do everything at the same time. So I'm really, really quite honored that you had the time to come and sit with me today whilst we talk about the changing seasons of life. Super excited.
Happy to be here.
So, what does the changing seasons of life mean to you?
I think, first we have to start just like seasons. There's winter, there's spring, there's summer, there's fall. And in each of those seasons, something's happening a bit different, and you have to be prepared for them. So winter is, everybody doesn't want to go traveling in the winter in the snow. It's a bit bleak. So at that time in your life, you're thinking it's a bit lonely, or things are not just going well. It just seems like you're not in control of everything. And it's either you prepared for it. It's a bit like harvest, right? I've either harvested and I'm good. A bit like what's happening in the economy right now. If you plan for it, you just say, okay, I'm good. And that period is when you rest. However, most of us tend not to plan for them most of the time.
That's where I was going. A lot of us don't.
Yes, so if you've not planned, you need to just say, this is the time for me to plan.
Okay, but what if you haven't planned and then life happens and you still have to navigate through it? How do you get through that?
In the navigation is the planning. You've got to get through this season that looks like hell, right? You've got to figure out, okay, what's my immediate short-term steps I need to take to just survive? You get what I'm saying? But then you now take that survival mode and say, I am not going to repeat this, or I'm going to try not to repeat this. So look at where you went wrong along the way. What could I have done? We all say this thing, oh, I'm going to save X amount of my salary and do what not to it. And then we all go and live our best life and blow it all. So what can you put in place? And who should you be engaging? We're not the first, like you were talking to your mother last week. Even engaging her in terms of, Mom, how did you get through these seasons? You need to talk to mentors and other people, your contemporaries, in terms of how do you get through it? Take bits and pieces of information from different people and books, read. In that season of bleakness is a time to really skill up. You cannot say, oh, I don't know again. Go and find a book. There's a book for everything. There's someone that's written something about everything. And you need to just start applying that. Put that thing together, and that's what you're doing. You calm down, slow down, survive, but also put some steps together to say, I am going to be ready for the next point.
So what if in this season of essentially recalibrating, you're not necessarily the type of person who is skilled at knowing how to recalibrate?
I just said, ask a friend. Phone a friend.
What if you like to figure it out all on your own all the
Read a
time?
book.
What if
Google
you don't
it.
like to read?
Google it. Google is your friend.
Okay, so there's always, the key thing here is there's always a way to get through it.
Yes, there's always a way to get through it. No matter how bleak it seems, because that's the bit you must take on. No matter how bleak it seems, this is a season, and seasons change. So you have to just figure out, how am I going to survive through this season and get out of it to go into the next phase.
True. True. Okay. So do you think that with the older generation rather, they had a different outlook on how they navigated through life as it relates to our generation and the younger generation?
I think we're in a middle phase. The older generation, there wasn't a lot of information pieces like how the younger generation. We're in a generation that's sort of stuck in the middle. We're not completely like the younger generation that are at it. They just move. They don't waste time. This is not working, I'm moving, right? That's how the younger Gen Zs and I'm borderline
all of
millennial.
these
Yes,
younger
the younger
in the
people.
20s and early 30s.
They just move.
Yeah.
We will start thinking about the older generation will reflect and reflect and reflect. Do you see what I mean? But we are in a situation now that we're tech savvy-ish, so we have to just take on a bit from the younger generation, just say, this happened, okay, it's a problem, but we need to just move. And that's the thing that the next generation do, they act. So moving from winter into spring, which is the place where there's opportunity.
Yes.
The younger generation, really they see the opportunity, they just go for it. The older generation, there's no fear of failure. They're like, that's an opportunity, I'm going to jump on it. The older generation, that's an opportunity, should I jump on it? We also weigh it a little bit. We'll have to do a bit more thinking. But the younger generation, they just tap it. And that is the risk. They're happy to take risks. Spring is about taking risks because if there's no risk, there's no reward. You can't think you're going to get a reward without taking some calculated risk. So you have to be looking at those things very carefully.
But you just said calculated risk. I sometimes wonder, the younger generation, do they actually take calculated risks or do they blindly take risks without any thought for the consequences?
Spring is about acting. Do not waste time over calculating it, putting the boxes all straight. You know when you're painting and coloring, it's the color, right? Other people paint exactly within the lines. The younger generation, they said paint, so I'm painting. So I painted, is it painted? It's painted, so they move. That's what we need to do. That action part is the key in spring. I made the plan in winter, now I'm acting. I must not hesitate, and that's where they're winning. They do not hesitate, they go for it. Hesitation is the problem. Procrastination is the problem in spring. Remember, the opportunity window is in spring. If you are faffing around, the season is going to change from spring to summer.
Yes.
Summer has a different thing that's happening there. If you do not take advantage of the opportunity during spring, you're going to miss it. And so you're waiting for the cycle again, which is what the younger generation do a lot faster than we do. They don't hesitate. They just, I'm doing it. I'm moving.
Wow. Okay.
I'm trying to be like that.
I'm honestly, can I really be like them? I don't think so.
Calculated risk taking, but not over procrastinating is our own age group.
Calculated risk taking, but not. Can you expand on that, please?
So if you're not just going to jump into the ocean and just say, oh, I hope I can swim to the other side.
But that's essentially what you're saying. The younger generation.
Yes,
do.
But we have to recognize we're not quite like that. In an ideal world, yes, jump and pray for the best. But remember, they planned, so they're not. It's not completely.
But did they really plan though? If you're 23 to 25.
The information overload we get from tech. Remember, we don't have, in the older generation, you could really sit in a season. You're not, you're in it. We're now distracted by tech and all sorts. We don't even know we're in a season.
Fair enough.
So that's why it seems like they're not planning, but they're getting so much information from all sorts of sources that allows them, and connecting, the connection that tech has allowed us. They're seeing how their own 25-year-old in Japan had the season 2 months ago. Remember? So they're just, moving on. Look at during COVID, some businesses those young cats created. We were there thinking, we're going to survive through COVID. Let's go buy bales and bales of toilet roll. They were building businesses.
Very true. So is there anything to take from the much older generation?
The much older generation is that you can learn from them. The season has happened. There's nothing new under the sun. Recession is a recession is a recession. What did they do in the recession? You can learn from them. You know what I mean?
But seeing as the world has changed,
Marriage having an issue, marriage having an issue. In the old day, in the current day, in the young day, is a marriage having an issue?
True.
So how did they get through it? You can learn from any up season, older season, younger generation. Getting through it is what you need to see, the insights. You're trying to get insights. So there are things you can learn from any generation. If you're putting in context of what it is.
Very
Not trying
true.
to put it in the time it's occurring.
In the time it is. So the key thing is we need to just take generation. And my mom actually said that last week. She said something along the lines of, there's really nothing like younger generation, older generation. It's all the same thing. Okay. So I want to take you back to the fact that in the season of acting, which is spring, the younger guys, let me not even say younger generation, the younger guys are essentially more proactive.
And they won't hesitate.
But then everybody falls, don't they?
We're moving through the seasons. Now we go into summer. You've now acted. You put your plan together in winter. You're acting in summer and spring.
In spring, yeah.
Summer now, it's to stay the course. Summer, everything, it's hot and it's getting distracted. Should I stick? You know that whole, let me live my best life. That's when summer is a distraction. Instead of you to stay with your plan, you're saying, this thing is just, it's too much. And you fall off the plan. Living your best life, it's a two-way street. It's either the time for you to live your best life, or it's the time to you to say, I have time to live my best life. Now I need to focus on executing the plan. And that's what summer is. It's either you're persistent, you're continuous, you're consistent in the actions. This is step one, step two. I have to be consistent and persistent.
Aren't you also supposed to be reaping the rewards of your labor?
You haven't gotten to the end. You haven't gotten to the end. 4 seasons. I haven't gotten to the 4th season. Summer is not reaping. Summer is putting in the effort, despite the distractions around you. You're trying to conclude the plan that you actioned in spring. You're trying to finish. You're moving through the steps of the plan in summer.
I see. So what do you do in autumn?
In autumn, it's time to reap. And this is when you're going to see where you can, that consistency, did you go and live your best life and get distracted? So you're either going to see, did you succeed or did you fail? If you kept to your plan.
Is there a middle ground between succeeding and failing?
Not really.
This sounds very brutal though.
Life is brutal.
Ouch.
But, this is where the rubber hits the road. Did I succeed or did I fail? That is not an issue. Failing is not a problem. You must pick yourself up from that and say, I'm starting the process again. Check what I did wrong along the way. And you start a new plan and you continue. Because life is continuous, isn't it? So, and even in the success, remember I said in the beginning, winter, some people put enough away so they could just say, I'm good, and I'm just going to rest during winter. If at that point of fall, when you're reaping, you decide to blow it all, remember you've not kept anything for the next winter. You must always, it's coming back.
Yeah.
It's coming back. So if you've now, winter, you succeeded, put some aside, and then rest, right, in fall. For those that failed, it's time to just first take ownership. You know, some people want to blame, my dad this did, my mom did this.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
That is the worst thing you can do at the time of reflection in the reaping cycle.
How do you, I'm gonna let you finish, but to just interrupt you quickly. How do you, if you're not the type of person who has been trained on taking ownership, how do you then navigate that?
This is when, this is where people have issues. And you either need to figure out, and this is why there's so many coaches today, there's so many therapists today, there's so many online groups today, there's a WhatsApp group for everything, because people need to hear from someone else that said, I failed, I own that I failed, I might not, you know, I can't control everything around me, but I'm the reason, I took the action, I decided what action to take. It's the action you are owning up, not what's happening in the environment. What action did you take during the season? That is yours to own. A recession is not your fault, but what you do is you have to own it. So that is why you find that people that normally say, it's not me, it's this, it's that, they need a group. They need to hear, someone needs to just, a therapist to say, you need to just, take ownership. Because until you do that, you're going to wallow in that, you're going to keep making the same mistakes because you're not really reviewing and saying, if I'd done this or if I'd done that, the outcome would have been different.
Would have been different. I interrupted you because you were talking about how to then pull yourself back up when you missed that part of the season.
First of all, is to say it's not the end. It's not the end.
Very true.
It's not the end. I made a mistake. I fell down. It's not to pick yourself up.
True. But then are there more falls? Are there some falls that are worse than others?
Well, of course. Because that means let's say there's a hole. If the pothole is a small pothole and you fall into a little pothole, you probably will stumble over it. There's the pothole that you fall deep inside, right? There's a hole that you didn't see there. So you will have to climb out of it.
Yeah.
And that's where that one can seem very arduous. But the thing is saying, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I must get out of this hole. I cannot remain in this hole. If I'm in the hole, I'm going to stay in the hole and I'm going to be miserable.
Very true.
So focusing on that there is other opportunities. Always look at there's another chance.
True.
There's another chance. And if you can focus on the fact that there's another chance, as opposed to wallowing in the cesspool of the problem, you can now plan. Like we go back to that cycle again. I plan.
Can you determine your seasons, or are they fixed? Because there's a school of thought that says the seasons of life are maybe from childhood to, I don't know, late teenager or whatever is one season. Then at a certain stage, there's another season. Then there's a season where you're supposed to do things like marry, have children, all of that. Can you determine your seasons, or are they fixed?
I think everybody's season is different. I don't think it's down to age. Like they said, there's a time for every purpose under heaven. It's not really your choice, the season. The season is coming by, depending on what your belief is. It's not really in your control, the season, right? But how you act in every season is what you have control of.
How you act in every season. Can you decide to have an unconventional season whereby the things that people typically do in spring aren't the things you want to do in spring? Can you flip it on his head?
What did I say spring was? Spring is actioning the plan. If you don't action the plan, that means do you want to stay in winter?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, can I decide that winter is now my reaping rewards season? I don't know.
Let's just keep to the general. I'm using seasons loosely. No, we're just saying what's happening at that period. I didn't have to use winter. I'm just saying in your dark time. Let's forget winter.
Well,
in a dark time, or a bleak time, or a sad time, or a lonely time.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with age.
No.
At all.
No.
And it happens. It's a continuous loop, essentially.
Loop. Because it can come from different angles. It could be your marriage. It could be your exams.
Could you have multiple seasons for different parts of your life
Definitely.
at the same time?
Definitely. You said I do many things at one time.
True.
I can be having a season from work. I can be having a season from my marriage. I can be having a season from my children. And then, of course, I live in Nigeria. I'm constantly having a season.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's multiple things you're dealing with.
If you were to teach your younger self how to navigate through the changing seasons of life, what are the 5 things you would be telling yourself?
That living your best life thing all the time is not a good thing. I know I was talking about this with a friend the other day. There was a friend of ours that wasn't living her best life constantly like we were. You know what I mean? She plans. She's very, she will say this is her budget and she'll stick to it. Do you get what I mean? Or I'm putting £100 away every month. Do you get what I mean? And she will stick to it. No matter how we're saying, we were like, we're going down here, we're going here. If it's eating to her, but she'll say no. That's hard. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, you've got to live life a little bit. But now that we are seeing winter, you know what she's doing? She's resting. Remember, if you have surplus in the winter that you plan for, that person should be resting while the rest of us are now planning. So I'm just taking one aspect in terms of economics and money. That younger self, I would say things like, when you're thinking it's too hard, and you say, that's part of the summer, when you're thinking, oh my God, this actioning, this plan is just getting on my nerves, I need to just go. I would tell my younger self to persevere, push through.
Yeah. Push through.
And I'd also tell my younger self, you do need a mentor. That winter part, to learn from other people. You should engage and see what's going on, and then just learn from other people and hold it. Like my mom always says, hold it in your left hand, as opposed to, parting with both hands like that. So she's holding your left hand, because all of that will help you down the line. How you deal with your marriage. You're not the first. Do you get what I mean? You're not going to be the last. But the actions you can learn from other people's experiences. The people say, read. It is so important. It is so important.
But if you're not a reader, there are other ways, though.
Engaging people. I think we also don't share.
Yeah.
I think what we're learning as we go older, and this is why we're now learning from each other. I don't know whether it's this age we're at now. We are being vulnerable to share. When you're younger, you're trying to be, I'm perfect, or everything's great. But at this stage now, what is there in hiding what's going on? Do you get what I mean? So you share more. I wish even when we're younger, we shared more.
How do we then change the future for the younger ones? So now that we know these things that we would have told our younger selves, how do we then help the younger ones?
So the younger ones, you find they have clusters, they have groups. I'm in a group with a bunch of young tech folks. And in the way we would run business, we would hide all that information about our business, right? The bad things, how I've grown. These people are fully transparent. I did this marketing plan, and it did this, and it did that, and it did the other. And if you do this, here's the number of this person that can help. They are enabling each other in an ecosystem format. So it's like they say, if I win, we all win. We didn't do that. We were taught to compete.
True.
We were taught to compete.
Very
they
true.
are taught that it's an ecosystem that wins. It's not
Teamwork.
I that wins. It's a team. I'm in the same industry as you, but if one person in the industry is failing, you can drag the whole industry down.
Yeah. Wow. As always, we've come to the end. As always, but this is why I said I don't need to stress with you one day, because the insights that we've all learned in this last few minutes, even I am like, I need to go back and sit down and look at my seasons and re-strategize. This has been really, really helpful, and I'm so grateful you were able to come and just help us to just get a grip on life, essentially, and just give ourselves a break. And if we need to
pat yourself on the
recalibrate, if you need to just forge along. So hopefully everybody listening can identify the season they're in and help determine what their next steps should be. So I'm really, really glad we did this. Thank you so much, Yewande.
You're so welcome.
It's been awesome. So John, Helen, and myself are going to very quickly round up the show. So please stay tuned whilst we do this. Thank you.